many of you watched the Magic School Bus? You know about 8 students going on not-so-normal field trips on a school bus that is strangely magical with their pet lizard and their happy-go-lucky teacher named Valerie Frizzle. If you have watched the series, I don't mean the reboot on Netflix. That series replaced the teacher Valerie with her little sister Fiona, although to me, I guess the carefree and happy-go-lucky personalities run in the family. But enough of that. All I can tell you right now is that my name is Felicia Jonas. You are all probably wondering, why bring up the Magic School Bus? Well, let's say I kinda had an experience with one of the darkest episodes. The Magic School Bus in a haunted house. For those of you who are too scared to even watch it, it's about the class going on a field trip to some place called the Sound Museum for their sympathy performance, which is such a crazy place. But the bus pretends to have a breakdown and Miss Frizzle was on it. When Carlos Ramon was trying to get a perfect sound on his weird-looking instrument, although they ended up in the haunted house where Carlos heard his unearthly siren-like sound. In other words, it was basically learning about types of sounds, considering the series involves education for children. Now that's enough silly talk now. Time for me to tell you about the dark episode. Wasn't like how it had been when you watched it. I was at a garage sale that was hosted by my friend Jake. He was getting rid of some kiddie junk, clothes, and some old VHS tapes, and other crap, mind you, you'd find at a garage sale. I figured he was helping his parents with the garage sale before he goes to college tomorrow. I was looking around some old VHS tapes. I wanted to see if he still had some movies from Full Moon Direct. Sadly, he didn't. That was when I saw the collection of the Magic School Bus VHS tapes. I went over to Jake and purchased them because I have a little cousin who is a sucker for the old-timey Magic School Bus series, and she's dropping by tomorrow afternoon. What I find is that there were 2 of the Magic School Bus in the haunted house. At first I didn't pay attention to it at a time, and I assumed Jake's parents got 2 of them by mistake. I purchased it for about $15. Although the tapes, I got an old cupcake pan, a couple of shirts his mom never wears anymore, a few Britney Spears CDs, the Anastasia VHS movie, the Wizard of Oz VHS movie, and a big glass bowl. Although I was putting the stuff I purchased, I could have sworn Jake said in a low whisper, "I hope she doesn't watch that other haunted house episode." I asked him what he said, but he simply said nothing. Like hell he did. I'm not stupid. Jake is a bad liar sometimes. When I got home, I was cleaning up the house and watching over my siblings while my parents were out late at work. They had told me they had come back and they had finished the work, which will be around 9 or 10. It was around 8 p.m. and my sister and brother were already asleep. Then I was about to get myself a snack when I saw the haunted house episode in the box. I took it out of the box, and for some odd reason it had the words "scarier than the first" on the cover. I figured it was Jake's handwriting, considering he puts a star over the I. As I assumed the episode scared Jake to the point of wetting his pants, I let out a small laugh while imagining it. It may have been a dark episode, but it wasn't that scary. Or so I thought. Curiosity had the better of me. So I put the tape in the VCR player. I sat down on the couch and the screen was black. It showed a few legal notices, a few trailers I've already seen, the Teletubbies included. Then that was when the episode played. The intro played normally. But in the words in the haunted house appeared, I was dumbfounded. There were words that were rose red, not yellow like the other title cards did. I didn't much of it. I assumed it was a mistake. The episode started normal, which was the class, practicing the sympathy at the Sound Museum. Yeah, nothing wrong with the episode. At first. At least until Miss Frizzle, having an idea as her whistle earrings glowed, just like in the other episodes. But that was when suddenly the bus started to have technical difficulties after transforming. Rather than saying her usual happy tone, "Award-winning performance, bus," she looked out the window, with a surprising but worried expression on her face. She asked with worry, "What's wrong with the bus?" It was shaking violently and the kids were shocked and fearful. Miss Frizzle was shockingly the same way as the children, which was actually out of character for her to be this worried. When the bus turned into a whistle and blew, the kids asked what happened. That was when the scene came, when she went out to check on the bus. But the bus wasn't acting. It actually burned out. I was a bit confused. The episode before in science class in elementary school, and I knew this was not right. The bus looked sick, judging from its eyes. The episode continued in the normal way when the children were and the teacher were pulling the bus. Although the bus's eyes were halfway opened, although another part kind of made me jump. When Carlos Ramon tries to make his instrument sound better by putting a couple more objects in it, which ended in a failure. But that's when the scene when Arnold and DA looking unimpressed. I could have sworn at the corner of my eye I saw a shadowy figure peeking from the tree behind Arnold. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. The episode resumed a little more. That was when the scene came, the one where Carlos Ramon heard that sound. If you are curious to know what that sound was, it sounded like a ghost moaning, singing like a siren, while on a saxophone, playing frantically, "Would you give your spine a real chill?" The scene where Ralphie teased Arnold about being scared of the house until he got scared by the wolf howling sound. Again, I saw the shadow peeking from the tree when Ralphie looked scared before vanishing at a fast pace. "What the hell was that?" I asked quietly. Miss Frizzle, in her optimistic and positive side, reminds the class to take chances and make mistakes. It wasn't surprising, considering Miss Frizzle is not one of those teachers that get worried about the students' safety. I swear, she's just a little too optimistic. The episode resumed normally once again, at least until the scene where Arnold walked past free spooky-looking Halloween decorations as he moaned like ghosts. But rather than orange paper ghosts with ghost faces, the ghosts looked real and angry. They weren't orange but white. They popped up from the ground as Arnold screamed fearfully. It was a little spooky, I assumed, but it was just a coincidence or maybe even an old scene. But it makes no sense to me considering the series was not remastered like The Wizard of Oz was. But when the scene where Carlos insisting that the sound wasn't going to open the door, he gasped as a faint whisper said in an eerie female voice, "Come in!" It gave me chill up my spine. When the scene showed the rest of the class walking inside before Arnold and Ralphie, I saw it again. The shadow from those two scenes poking its head out from the tree. This time it had two rose-red eyes and were glaring at them. I'm a bit dumbfounded. It was following them? Who or what was that? Whatever it wasn't human. The scene where Ralphie and Arnold go to the last inside the haunted house before the door shuts by itself. When the door shuts by itself, I saw something on the screen going for the doors literally. Then when the class was walking down the hallway where the paintings were, they looked harmless and old. Really old. One of the paintings was looking at Tim. Typical thing at a haunted house. I mean, what haunted house doesn't have paintings to look that creepily? The painting that was looking at him was a picture of Professor C.O.A.G., the owner of the haunted house, which was actually the Sound Museum. But that was when the scene where Ralphie explained that she's a ghost. The paintings, including late Cornelia, in the background looked eerily different. Two of them were a bit unsettling, like they were in a brutal car accident. They were showing blood and gore in those paintings. It almost made me vomit. Cornelia's painting was, on the other hand, looked really ugly and angry, and I could have sworn she was glaring at me. It was unsettling, but I doubt any of them noticed. I swear to God it was creepy. The scene where Carlos and Wanda were falling in a swirl was unsettling. The swirl didn't even look friendly. Instead, it looked like green and black vortex. It was a little friendly after that. It was way normal when they were exploring the rooms with giant instruments, not to mention those musical magic glasses help them see sound. Until one scene where Carlos' instrument disappears. A wind blew the candles out and a raspy voice whispered, "Get out!" Until the scene after Carlos' instrument disappears. Then there was a scene where Carlos was falling into darkness. Rather some random objects passing by, there were evil pumpkins and ghosts laughing in an evil way. I almost swear I saw a copy of a creepy clown head too, with a pink nose and an unsettling smile. Crap, it is really a haunted house. The noises stopped when Carlos fell into the hay. But here comes the most disturbing part. The sound was coming towards the door when Carlos opened it, and my skin jumped at what I saw. It was a female ghost with long white hair. Its face was as twisted as a skull with a sickening grin and sharp teeth. Its dress was torn and old, and its claws were sharp as a knife. The class screamed in horror as the ghost made its sound. "You all shouldn't have come here. You should have listened to your friends. Now you will perish," the woman said in a raspy, low, and ghastly voice. That was when the ghost rushed onto the screen, and then the screen went dark. I can hear the class scream in fright. It was so loud it woke up my sister and my brother for a moment or two. My brother Toby asked what it was, and I assumed it was nothing. They believed me and went back to sleep. The scream then faded to an unconscious Ralphie, whose head was shockingly bleeding. He groaned as he opened his eyes as he was outside. His vision was blurry, but he could see his fellow classmates lying on the ground, hurt and strangely burned. Ralphie sees Arnold injured next to him. Before Arnold groaned and his eyes twitched. Ralphie gasped before calling to him. "Hey, Arnold, wake up! Hey!" Ralphie said, putting a hand on Arnold's shoulder. Arnold indeed woke up and revealed his minor injuries, which were a few scratches and bruises on his body. Again, I should have stayed home today," Arnold said his usual catchphrase, but with more pain in his tone. It wasn't long till the other students woke up with injuries. D.A. gasped in horror as she looked at the house, which was on fire. It made no sense what caused it and why the students were injured and outside. That was when the scene showed how they escaped. They were running away from the ghost before Keisha accidentally pulled one of the rocks and the secret passageway was open. The passageway revealed to have stairs going back up the library. They didn't hesitate to get up the stairs. "You just had to follow the sound, Carlos," Arnold said, and Carlos angrily as he glared at Carlos while they were running from the ghost. "Less lecturing, more running, Arnold," Carlos shouted while running. When they reached the main library, they ran from the ghost. There was a scene that kind of made a Scooby-Doo reference when they kept running back and forth in some entrances. In a relief, they didn't play any 60s music. That would have got them students for stealing a scene. Although during that, the students got hurt by the ghost trying to kill them. "Or at least I didn't have this in my old school," Phoebe said, as she got clawed by the ghost while running. But when Tim and Keisha saw the entrance, they saw it was opened. The other students immediately noticed before they made a break for it. Just before they went outside, they jumped at the sound of explosion and saw on the screen. It was a ton of action movie cliche, I guess. The scene changes to them now injured. "Where's Miss Frizzle?" Wanda asked while looking around. But that was when they saw a familiar whistle, earring covered blood as they gasped. They saw Liz the lizard crawling out of the fire-encrusted house in burns and scars before Liz collapsed. The class was in horror and grief as Arnold shook. D.A. rushed to Liz, and to her relief, the lizard was alive, but was injured badly. When D.A. picked up Liz, who regained consciousness, Arnold glared at Carlos. "Liz, is the Frizz okay?" D.A. asked to everyone in shock and sorrow. The lizard looked at them sadly and shook his head. Everyone was in grief. Arnold then snapped at Carlos. "This is all your fault, Carlos!" Then it got bad, when Arnold and Carlos got into a fight. That made me jump. The series didn't involve typical fights like you see in school. It was brutal until Tim and Ralphie break them up. The scene cuts to the police, firefighters, and ambulances at the scene. While the fire was still roared, there was also piano music, Moonlight Sonata by Motz to be exact, playing in the background. The kids were getting their injuries treated and getting ready to go to the hospital. Firefighters had been trying to put out the sound of the fire at the museum, while the police had been questioning a couple of kids. D.A. was comforting a bandaged up and grieving Liz, while D.A. herself was at the verge of tears. The scene then changes to the kids' hospital, where their parents hugged them in tears and telling them that they were relieved to be okay. The police told them they couldn't find Miss Frizzle's body. However, they found her bloody earrings and several bloody remains of her dress she was wearing. No doubt she was dead. The scene then changes to a memorial service of Miss Frizzle's school grounds. Parents, school staff, the students, Miss Frizzle's family, and even Miss Frizzle's class. They were all in the grief scene, and it shows a picture of Miss Frizzle smiling, surrounding it with a bunch of beautiful flowers. D.A., Keisha, Tim, Ralphie, Wanda, Arnold, Phoebe, and Carlos were in tears. Arnold glared at Carlos in tears as Carlos himself. Classes are canceled until further notice, the principal announced. Slowly everyone went home after the service. I'm so scared and sad, Mom, Ralphie commented. Well, look on the bright side, Ralphie. At least you'll have plenty of time to recover, Ralphie's mom said, trying to sugarcoat the situation like a typical mom. Keisha, being comforted by her grandmother, walked away crying. It will be okay, Keisha, Keisha's grandmother said. Maybe you should go back to your old school, Phoebe, Phoebe's dad said. Phoebe nodded in agreement. Let's get something to eat, Wanda, Wanda's mom said, while holding her younger child and comforting her daughter. Thanks, Mom, Wanda said sadly. Dorothy, and if you're going to keep the lizard, you gotta take care of it, DA's mom said, while her daughter was grieving Liz in her arms. Carlos was the last to leave, escorted by his family, feel real guilty. Son, there is no reason to blame yourself like this, Carlos' father said, trying to comfort his son. I know, Dad, but Arnold's right. I let my curiosity get the better of me. It's my fault, Carlos said sadly. You were curious as a small child, Carlos. You didn't cause the accident. Nobody is at fault, Carlos's mom said. Your mother's right, son. Come on, let's go home. It's gonna take a few weeks until they find a new teacher, Carlos' father said, as the family got in their car. Just after Carlos and his family drove off, one of Miss Frizzle's family members was comforting this bus who was sad. It was the old woman that looked like Miss Frizzle. As Valerie says, life goes on, the old woman said before driving the bus. The last scene showed the school while it started to rain and the piano music ended. It cut to the credits without a look on the producers. It was fucking crazy and I was dumbfounded. I fell asleep on the couch before waking up holding my brother's magic school bus home VHS tape. Hey sis, why didn't you tell us you... Toby said, before looking at me and trailed off. Felicity, are you alright? Toby asked him worried. I asked him what time it was and he told me it was breakfast time. I got up and the tape was rejected. I rushed to it and saw that I was the one that watched. I put it back in its cover and grabbed the permanent marker and wrote the words "real scary" on the cover. I held it out as Toby looked concerned. Felicity, are you okay? You look pale. Should I go tell Mommy? Toby said. Oh, I'm fine, bro. Just feeling a little nauseous, that's all, I said to him. Felicity, Jake is here, my sister shouts, before I held the VHS tape and walked over to the door. Jake was at the front door outside, so I had a little chit-chat with Jake about the episode. I told him I saw it as Jake had a fearful look, knowing I saw it. I was hoping you wouldn't, Jake said as he sat down. I asked him what kind of sick episode was this, and Jake said nothing. However, he did show me a letter. To be honest, Felicity, I didn't even know what was going on after I watched. I wrote a letter to Scholastic Entertainment, and a week later I got a letter from Miss Frizzle's voice actress Lily Tomlin saying everything, Jake said, handing me the letter. It read, Dear Mr. Jake Peters, I humbly thank you for writing this. I got your letter by mistake. However, when reading it, I was a bit surprised in a bad way of your story involving the original Haunted House episode. But rest assured you, Mr. Peters, I'll explain everything while writing. When we were making a Halloween special in 1994, 2 months before October, the staff was working hard on it. Even me and the other class members have been. The director needed it scary, however when we reviewed it, it was a little too scary. It also meant my character was getting killed off. Knowing that we were in a tight schedule, we redone it and re-edited it, and made it a little less scary for a happy ending. But that didn't end here. When we finished the actual episode and rescheduled to be on August 30th, that one year the staff accidentally shipped the original to the video store. We were only lucky there was no copies of it made regardless. We continued the series after the incident, worrying. Although, one thing I forgot to mention when we reviewed the original, the person who played the ghost had a panic attack and went to the emergency room. Luckily she's okay, but she quit the Magic School Bus series and returned to her job at DreamWorks with her voice acting as a background character. But listen, everyone but me has forgotten it. The only person who did forget was almost QueenRayleigh3, Arnold's voice actor. He told me not to worry. Thank you for writing this, Mr. Peters, but try not to speak of the said incident again. It'll be our little secret, and thank you. Signed, American actress and comedian Mary Jean Tomlin, aka Lily Tomlin. Jake looked at me and worried in fear. I made a solution to bury the VHS tape at the park where no one will find it. When we buried the tape in a box with the words, "Do not watch" on it, me and Jake made a vow not to tell anyone. I know where you're all wondering, why tell us this? Well, to be honest, I needed to tell you all in case if it gets found, or if you do not believe me and watch it anyways. It's your funeral, and do not say that I did warn you. And that, my pretties, was Magic School Bus in a Haunted House alternative episode. A Magic School Bus creepypasta written by QueenRayleigh3. My final thoughts on the story. I thought this was a pretty interesting creepypasta involving the Magic School Bus. I will have to say right now that when I first read this, I obviously thought it was a really interesting concept. Minus the cliches that were added, like VHS cliche and stuff. Well, I'm willing to excuse it because this is something I can definitely say that is pretty interesting. Although, some people may agree with me saying, oh, it's cliched, it's been done many times. Well, that's just your opinion, personally. I personally thought this was a really interesting concept. Like, basically, it's an alternative episode of The Magic School Bus inside a haunted house, which I've watched that one a long time ago. It's definitely a really good episode. I can recommend it. I definitely really have to say when I first read most of it, it was unfortunate that Miss Frizzle met her fate, but it definitely really brings out, what this original episode was originally going to be. And the fact that, the actor from Miss Frizzle, wrote a letter to this Jake person. And that's pretty interesting of how she explains it, but it kind of has been done to other creepypastas, but I personally thought this was really neat. It's still a good story in my opinion, minus the cliches. If I do have to point out one thing I wasn't really a fan of there were a couple of spelling errors in the story. Like, there was a couple of spelling errors. So, yeah, I did notice there was a few spelling errors. So, my advice to the author is before you post your story anywhere, it's best you check your spelling to make sure your spelling is as good as you can, before you post it. This is just so you can review your story, make sure, you fix any spelling errors and stuff like that. Just to help the author out, if that makes sense. Anyway, what do I personally think of this story? Well, a really good one. I personally enjoyed this one. It's minus the cliches that were used in this story, but I personally thought this was an alright story. Maybe not the best creepypasta lost episode wise, but it definitely was a pretty good one. I personally liked it. Now, I'll leave a link in the description for this story, so if you guys want to go watch it, not watch it, but if you guys want to read it for yourselves, you're more than welcome to. I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can go check it out. So anyways, like I'm going to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these stories. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. I'm gonna give this story I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because while it's a really interesting story and well done, the grammatical errors do need to be fixed because I did notice some spelling errors as well. Those need to be fixed. The cliches that were incorporated in the story, while I can excuse them, they still kind of bring the story down a point or two, but overall, this story wasn't so bad. It definitely was a pretty interesting concept. I personally really like it. So, anyways, with that being said and that being the case, what did you guys personally think of this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you enjoyed this video, Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you guys want to go follow me on Blue Sky, follow me on DeviantArt, follow me on Twitter, and follow me on my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo. Links to all those will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there if you want. And as always, if I'm missing something I did not explain or anything about the story, feel free to let me know. Now, anyways, with that being said, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out, and like always, roll the outro, because I'm out. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.